I'm going to do our quick update first. So if you've seen our presentation, once the update's done, feel free to leave. But we are going to have a little short like Q&A after the update. There we go. So this is, as of a few days ago, this is what the detections look like. We've had 174 adults caught. Most of them, if not all of them, have been in traps. I think there were maybe one or two that somebody caught, like on their lanai or their backyard or something. And then there was 205 larvae that were found. Most of them were at there was like a couple of large breeding sites, so that contributed like 190. And there was one or two here and there where tiny handfuls were found. So this is kind of what the map looks like on the Kona side. So the red is lots of CRB detected within a 1 mile radius, and then it gets lighter and lighter as you go out. So this is just a little more intense, slightly more confusing map of what's going on. So most of the detections have been in the Keahola Ag Park and the Palisades, so that neighborhood right above the Ag Park. Palamanui campus also has been regularly catching beetles. This little scarier one is the Konokahau Park did catch their second beetle this week. And they're a host of lots of endangered lolu palms, and lolu are very susceptible to CRB. Like coconuts and palms can handle like a few hits now and then and they'll recover, but lolu tends to really, really struggle once it gets hit by CRB. Move this real quick. Oops, hold on, I just broke my screen. 1 second. Trying to hide pictures. Oh. Let me stop my share real quick because I broke it. Sorry about that. Okay.
What's today?
So basically the gist of what it is that the most north point where we've caught CRB, not including Waikoloa, is Kiholo. There's the park over there. And the farthest south was Sadie Seymour Botanical Garden. Both of those have only caught one beetle so far, and so we're hoping those were one-offs and there's no breeding site with them. The most Mauka, so like from like the ag area going up Mauka was the Matsuyama, like the little mart up there. So that's the farthest we've seen it going up Mauka. So there's been a bunch of trapping going on. So of course we have our detection traps. Those are the black panels you may be seeing around. So that's what a lot of, we're catching a lot of those beetles in. So that's kind of where we're determining where they're at. But those are mainly just for detection. So they'll tell us, yes, there are beetles here. But because obviously we know there's beetles in those areas. So now we're kind of likely experimenting some other types of trapping. So we're looking at netting and log traps. So these are hopefully more attractive and will catch more beetles as in to make a dent in the population rather than just telling us, yes, there's CRB in Kona. We've only have a few of these put up right now. We're still trying to determine which catches the most beetles, and we'll probably implement more from there. So right now, these are only in very like strategic locations, just because we're still testing it. And once we figure out what is the best, then we'll share with everybody what's going on. So if you heard, we did do an aerial survey in the Palisades area. It was done in October. Basically, we wanted a few things from that survey. First of it was, let's get an initial image of what the palms look like so we can compare if we do another flyover later on. This is what the palm looks like in October. This is what they look like now. So we can see damage, because it does take like a couple months before we can see palm damage after the beetle feeds on it. The other thing we were doing is we were looking for green waste and unmanaged mulch. Because Palisades is a residential area, hundreds and hundreds of people live there. Basically, we need to know who has a compost pile just sitting in your backyard that's a potential breeding site. We are working with HDOT to essentially collect everybody's green waste that they don't want. They need help getting rid of it. That's still in the works, but the plan is you would take it to essentially to the roadside, and it will get collected on this certain days. It may be 1 or 2 days of like work days for us, and then get rid of as much green waste and breeding sites as possible. Another issue that was brought up by the community over there was the green waste. The county mulch pile over there where you can drop off your green waste is only open like 3 days a week or something like that. So that's leading to people stockpiling it in their yards. So that has been brought up to the county, and they're looking at having it open more frequently so people can just take their green waste more often. They don't have to aim for the whatever 3 days a week it's open. So that is our main update. Is there any questions on what's been going on recently before I get into the background of what CRB is? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the update. I'm not sure I heard it clearly regarding the efficacy of the netting and the.
So question was efficacy of the traps, essentially the netting and the light traps. We're still figuring that out. So we have a couple set up, and we're going back to check like how many catches we get essentially.
What about the log trap?
Same thing. We're checking both. I know from just the top of my head, I know both have caught a couple. So now we're gonna compare which is better, light or logs, or maybe both. Maybe we'll somehow mash them together. But it could be the population is also, of course, not as high on Oahu, so it's still hard to do like official testing because the population size may tweak the data. But that is something we're going to be experimenting with. And once we find one that we're like, okay, this is the one we like, then we'll share that publicly. So hopefully the idea is the guys in the Palisades and Kona where they know they have CRB,
Right.
They could build their own traps or something to essentially help reduce the population.
So that log, is it like a rotting log or like log?
Not necessarily rotting, but it's fresh. Some of them could be freshly cut. Like when we were, we actually got some because there was a tree that was already sick and dying from something else, not CRB. So they had it cut down, and we're like, hey, can we have those logs? And they just gave it to us. So it doesn't have to be, it just needs to be like in the process of decomposing.
Right.
So even freshly cut, it's still, from that point, it's starting to decompose. So that'll work too. But you don't need to use whole logs. You can also use green waste, compost, anything that they would like as a breeding site.
Thank you. In fact, the reason why I asked this question is because I have a proposal. I'm waiting for the decision. What I want to do is to look at volatiles from like breeders' sites.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you get data, I'm happy to hear that you're gonna.
Okay, we can talk after too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Was there any online questions?
Yeah, do we have any questions online? Feel free to chat them in, or you could unmute yourself and ask.
But in the meantime.
Yeah, for the Coco site, those are all small ponds. Are they applying pesticides on the ponds now?
I want to say the state has been doing treating. I don't know. They put it on their public dashboard, but it's zip code wide, so it's pretty much all of that is covered at one location. So I'm not sure where they're treating, but they say they are, and they've been working into Palisades also.
That would be, again, Cloak would be the national park.
Oh, the national park site.
But the national park, you mentioned that those are rare palms.
Yes.
But they're also small. They're easy to treat, and nobody's harvesting. I mean, that's the issue with coconut palms. People want pesticides in them if you want to eat the coconuts. Right. But for Cloak, you don't have that.
I'm not.
That would have been done the day after they.
Right. I am not 100% sure what's going on. I can ask Molly, who's been in contact with them, and we can let you know after.
Hey, Jade.
Yeah. Oh, Molly's here.
Yeah, I'm here. At the Kaloko Honokahau National Park, they are treating their trees. The national park is.
Nice. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, Molly.
Yep.
I think maybe Stash, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I had a question. You mentioned that you were doing aerial surveys with helicopters to try to find sources of green waste.
Yes.
So I have a neighbor who's been disposing of his royal palm fronds for about 20 years next to his property in the ag land below us here. And it's obviously a problem. In a situation like that, is there a way to report that, or how do you when you know that there's a problem nearby, what do you recommend?
So he's dumping it in like I think there's like a
across the fence into the adjoining property, and it's 20 years of accumulation. It's just a huge, perfect habitat for the larvae.
Right. So we got all those in the survey also. So it's probably, if it's that big, we probably are aware of it already. So we were working with the federal guys because that is their property. And so they were trying to get a contract for somebody to actually go in and get all that stuff removed. But I think they hit it, from last I heard, they hit a snag. So they're aware of it, they want to get rid of it, but now they're figuring out how to actually do it, because you can't, the only access I believe is from the residential, so that the homeowner would have to allow somebody access through their property. You can't go get it from the federal side. It's impossible to hike from the other way. But yeah, we're all aware of it. I guess you can let us know and we can share that with that information with them also and take reporting the possible breeding site that we could see, share that with them and see what they want to do about it.
So Jade, if somebody does want to make a report like that, what's the contact? Is there a phone number or an email or?
Email is probably best. I think multiple times our email will come up through this presentation.
Okay.
But it's just BIISC@hawaii.edu. And then if you can take a picture of it, but you don't need to be all like, hiding on your neighbor's property, get a picture. Just if you can easily see it from your property, you can get a picture for us so we can kind of get an approximate size. But if you can't get a picture, no problem. You can just explain it to us. Your best guess how big it is.
Thank you.
Is there any more questions before we get into the general, this is what CRB is?
Jade, I'm puzzled that you're doing trials of how to attract them. Hasn't the Oahu effort that's been ongoing for what, 12 years now, come up with best practices for trapping them? And Guam has been doing this for 20. Don't they have, here's the best practice, we've already done it. It's the same beetle, it's the same biotype, it's a coconut log. I don't say why it doesn't transfer to our island.
There was some question about which biotype we had, because for the longest time they're like, oh, we have the Guam one.
Yeah.
But there was a recent study that came out that we might actually have a different one, or that the Guam one is changing more.
Okay.
But so that's why we kind of have the gist of what it is, like what the base the trapping on. And we did go to Oahu, see what some of the farmers are doing up there, because that's essentially all they can do besides they're doing netting and treating. And so we saw some of how they're doing their traps. But we did notice, like just an example in Waikoloa, the beetles there were doing other strange things. They seem to be going after triangle palms more than coconut palms for whatever reason in Waikoloa. And when we asked the CRB team, what's up with that? Like, why are they going after these triangle palms? And even he was like, honestly, haven't really seen them do anything to triangle palms on Oahu. It could be maybe there's just less triangle palms on Oahu. So even those guys were doing weird things. So we still kind of know how to make the traps and what they look like, but we're just seeing if our beetles do weird things like they have been doing.
Okay.
A lot of this can be found online, and we did have a big webinar recently, and that is posted on the CRB Hawaii website. You can go watch. I don't remember if there was anybody specifically on trapping, but they covered a bunch of different treatment things. Yeah,
so for detection, the panel trap is the best. It's based on the vision pheromone of the beetle, but it's not effective for like mass trapping.
Right.
So the detection tool is working, it's very good, but I think what they are trying to do is to optimize tools for control.
Yeah.
And then also it may be, so maybe some homeowners don't have green waste or something,
Right.
Then they can put up a light trap instead, but we just want to do some of our own comparison. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So I believe we may, Molly, jump in at any time. If there was, we've had a student interested in doing like their project on different types of trapping, but then like I mentioned, there maybe the population in Kona is too low to do a legitimate study on something like that. But it is just something we're working on, and we're going to tell people how to do both traps anyway if they straight up ask us.
I think the Kona people want you to control every last one of them.
Yes, they want us to do all of it, but it's like, no, we need your help. You guys gotta help us make some traps and stuff too.
Part of our limiting factor has been getting the correct netting for these green waste traps. It's tech-in netting, and it's just been really difficult for us to obtain it. And when we do get the netting, we have to use it on a breeding pile. So we're kind of putting out fires here and there with the limited supplies we have. But we do know that green waste traps like rotting logs or mulch covered in the Tekken netting with pheromone lures is at least 5 times more effective in catching coconut rhinoceros beetle than the standard panel traps.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. Yeah, because like some people you can buy like bird netting and things like just online. So those might work in a pinch, but they're strong enough where they can rip that open if given enough time, versus this other type of netting is a lot stronger. So I know that was also an issue on Oahu where they were talking to people like, please bring in, like local vendors, like please bring in more of this netting. And because technically this type of netting is also illegal for fishing, so that's why it's been so hard to get, because no one was bringing in it if it was illegal to use, essentially. So now we need to tell them, no, we're bringing it in for CRB, not for fishing.
And you got the rural exemption for that.
Yes.
CRB thing.
Yes. Yeah, so it's still like you can buy it now. Mostly on Oahu, I don't think anybody on the Big Island is selling it yet. But still, if you're caught fishing with that, you're gonna get in huge trouble. Okay, I'm gonna go into actual CRB stuff. So if you're just here for the update, you're good to go. Thank you for coming. Okay, so go into general background information for CRB. So they're native to Southeast Asia. And the adults are actually sap feeders. So that's why we see them burrowing into the palm trees. They're actually ripping it up, trying to make essentially the tree bleed, and they're sucking up all the sap. The adults are active at night. So we've had a lot of reports like, oh, I see them flying around all the time. Probably something else, because it's very unlikely you'll see it flying around during the day unless you're up there disturbing them somehow. And the larvae live in decomposing organic matter. So that's why we keep talking about breeding sites and compost and all that stuff. Okay, so here is the life cycle. So again, they're nocturnal. If you're seeing something flying around during the day, it's probably a carpenter bee or oriental flower beetle. They spend actually most of their life in the ground. So even less likely you'll find an adult. They have multiple plant hosts. Coconut is their favorite, but we have seen them hitting a bunch of other palms and even other plant species, and I'll get into that. Scary thought is one female can lay up to 90 eggs in her lifetime. So these guys reproduce relatively quickly. So of course they're invasive, so they cause harm to all kinds of different things. So harm to our environment. I had mentioned in the beginning, lolu are very susceptible to CRB. So you can see when it attacks a lolu like this, it makes kind of that snowflake pattern. You see lots of the little holes throughout the frond. And this is actually a picture of the borehole inside of the growing spear. So essentially what happens, and the way it kills palms, is if it burrows deep enough and it kills the meristem of the plant, that plant's dead. Like that's all the new baby shoots. And if it destroys that, the tree's done for. Of course, making giant holes in the trees also opens it up to pathogens and fungus and all that other stuff. So of course, harm to our economy. Coconut trees and Hawaii go hand in hand, of course. So it's a tourism thing, but we've also seen it going after other plants. Banana and hala are just a couple of them. So it does affect our food source. And of course, people eat coconuts too. And of course, coconut is considered the tree of life in Native Hawaiian culture. Every part of the tree has a use, and it's essentially super, super important to save coconut trees. So these are the main hosts that we see. Coconuts, fan palms, royal palms, and date palms tend to be the favorite. But like I said, the once in a while kalo, for whatever reason, like triangle palms. Yeah, not sure why.
So date palms are wild and spreading in Kona. And the dry sides on South Kona. So they're a pretty widespread food source there.
Yes.
On the other hand, I think land managers would be happy to see fewer date palms.
Right. We haven't seen too many in South Kona. It was creeping that way. We did get a report, I think, yesterday about something we have to go check that was in South Kona, but so far it's still mostly by the airport area. So here's like secondary hosts. So if there's so much CRB, so they're seeing this on a walk where the population's really high. They also go after triangle palms, sago palms, foxtails, and the other species are pineapple, challah, banana, sugarcane, and even kalo. So these guys are going after all kinds of different stuff. So these are not normally the things they would hit if they have coconut as an option, except for the ones in Waikoloa. Who knows what those guys are doing? The host list is larger, and they have it on the CRB team's website. So this is what the signs to look out for when you're looking at palm damage. So the probably easiest one to see is the V cuts. So you can kind of see in these pictures, they do have scalloped edges, so it's not straight cuts. So you can see each frond has a little kind of a U shape in it. So you can imagine just the bottom of the borehole is what's making that U shape. Easiest thing to be like, oh, that's a CRB tree is if you find that giant borehole in either the frond or the stem. Kind of hard on coconut trees. If your coconut tree is super tall, it's really hard to see in the innermost growing part because that's where we'll see the damage first. And then the snowflake patterning on the fan palms. So something we also tell people to keep an eye out for is we want to be looking at the moment, we want to be looking more at the newer fronds versus the older fronds. Older fronds mean like it had to have been hit ages ago and it probably won't get hit multiple times. So it probably have multiple leaves of V cuts and multiple trees in that area also, because they're not going to just eat the one tree one time and that's it. They're going to go from tree to tree. So this is we get so many reports of palm damage, which is fine. Please keep sending them in. But there are other things that cause funny looking palms essentially. So the most common is probably rat damage and trimming damage. So if you're looking at a palm tree that's right next to a power line, it's probably trimmers. Those guys don't care what happens to the palm essentially. They're trying to protect the power line, so they're just going to cut it any old way. So the fronds come out all funny looking. So trimmer damage is often straight, because of course they're hitting it with a blade. Rat damage can look like anything. So you can see in this one, it does have those places where the fronds are missing. So it could make a V cut, but we say it looks tattered or it looks ratty because it just happens in any old way in pattern for rat damage. There's tons and tons of things that can affect palm trees. It could be drought, it could be nutrients, it could be sick, it has a pathogen or fungus or something. So if your tree suddenly dies, turns all brown, I've seen the whole thing like wilt and flop over. Those are not CRB. There's definitely something wrong with your palm tree, but it is not CRB. So this is kind of the timeline of what happened in Hawaii. So first detection was on a walk in 2013. So it's more than 10 years ago now. And back in 2023, there was some huge explosion for some reason.
When did they declare we're not going to try to eradicate it anymore? Wasn't that 23 when they said?
I think so. And then the ruling got lax for like a month. And then it showed up on all the different islands, and then they had to put the ruling back.
And again, that was Department of Ag dropping the ball on it. I mean,
yes,
if that had been absolutely, we need to keep this rule in place, but it's like, well, maybe not. We don't know. And it got dropped.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's coincidence, maybe, but
it's kind of hard to argue with just looking at this, like, oh, the rule lapsed, and now it's on 3 more islands. So luckily. I believe Maui got it under control. They hit the trees really fast. Like within the week, all the trees in the area were treated and they haven't seen any more. We also had a detection in Lanai this year in June. They immediately, I believe, put up some kind of ruling where nothing's moving out of this affected area until we get it, and they're working on getting rid of it. We first started, so in that previous detection, 2003, ours was found in Waikoloa in the residential area. And then March of 2025, this year, when we started seeing it in Kona. So we've been working mainly on early detection and outreach. So pretty much telling everybody, hey, this is what to look for. This is what CRB is. This is what it does. And of course, trying to find, like, get a hold of the spreading beetles in Kona. So this is kind of what it looks like on our island. So like I said, first detection is Waikoloa, October 23. We haven't seen any more CRB since September 2024. I don't think we can say they're clear for another couple of years. So we're still telling people in Waikoloa, still keep an eye out. And they, report any weird bugs and palm damage to us, but so far, looks promising. Unfortunately, Kona is the opposite, that we're getting a lot of detections in Kona. So we do have a community trapping network. So this is how a lot of the beetles are getting found. And so we're actually depend a lot on the public. We have we don't have the manpower or the time to drive around the whole island checking traps. So we actually ask people, hey, you want to help us put this in your yard? Or for some people, it's like where they work, they'll put a trap out for us and they'll check it for us at least once a month. Take the leaf litter out of the bucket, change the lure, let us know if they find anything. So this is kind of how we're keeping track of other areas on the island.
What are those marks on the map?
Where the traps are.
So it's where all the traps are. They're not detections. That's so all the triangles are where there is a trap. Yeah.
Yeah, and total traps is 435. We are working with some other organizations and stuff. So we gave them a bunch of traps. They're checking it for us in like certain locations. But I believe 200 something of them is just members of the community. So that's somebody put it up in their yard. So like half of them is community monitor traps, which is awesome. So we are also doing breeding site surveys. They did find, I want to say 2, maybe 3. Molly, yell at me if you're still here. In Kona side that we've actually found breeding sites and have gotten rid of them. Or I believe it was HDOT had treated some, fumigated it, removed it, took it to the green waste for processing. So we did get rid of a whole bunch of breeding sites. We're also working with Hawaiʻi detection dogs. She does have one dog that is trained on CRB for both the larvae and the adults. So we can't turn over every huge pile on the Kona side. So we'll let Manu and Michelle go through first. If Manu hits on a pile or shows interest, then we'll go turn that pile over. Versus what they had to do in Oahu for many years was just hire a bunch of people and everybody grab a shovel and we're going to turn over this giant mulch pile by hand, which is a lot of just manual labor. Yeah.
Could those compost piles be treated?
Yes.
With an insecticide?
Yes.
Is that effective?
Yes. It depends. Like, of course, if you're a farm, you can only do certain things. If you're a homeowner, you can do certain things. So we handle each.
What's the active ingredient in the pesticide?
I'm not too sure for the fumigation part. Because you can fumigate them. I don't know what the active ingredient for that, but as a homeowner, you can just use bifenthrin on your pile. Bifenthrin, like Talsum. Yeah, as a homeowner, I believe the ag guys in the farm, if you have the farm or the nursery, you're not allowed to do that for your compost pile. So they have to do other things. Okay, so and of course, we're doing things like this, teaching people at CRB, keeping everybody up to date in the loop of what's going on.
So Jade, how did you find the breeding sites? Did people call up, say, hey, I got a big pile of come look? Did they say, hey, I found it in my pile? Or did you find them and they go, oh, I never knew they had, they didn't know anything about it.
1 or 2 was a report, like somebody found a grub and they
self-reported then?
Yes.
Cool.
And then Molly, do you know how the big ones were found? I was actually on the
So we've been mapping the mulch piles in the Keauhole Ag Park and the surrounding areas. There is a big pile at the Kona airport. And since there were so many detections, the team went through and dug and found larvae. And that is also the case for 2 properties in the Keauhole Ag Park. Humans dug, found the larvae. The other 3 sites we have found has been because Manu detected them.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering about the owners of these piles. Were they oblivious to CRB? Did they know about it but figure it wasn't here? Did they know about it but just didn't figure it would ever hit them? It just seems to be an obvious thing to be on a lookout for, and yet you're out there finding and not the owners of the piles.
I think a lot of no, like their CRB was still kind of a newish thing. So it's something they've just done for years and years and years. and without really thinking about it. But normally once we tell them what's going on there, we haven't had any resistance. They're like, sure, do whatever, like with the compost pile. Well, have you had any different thoughts, Molly, on that?
Everybody has been really cooperative with us especially if we find larvae. The only person that's been a little bit difficult is in Makalea Estates, and he's been throwing his green waste into the native dry forest above Palamanui campus. He let us come one time with the dog, but we're having issues getting back to dig around again.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, so and this is something for all of you to just keep in mind. Everyone seems to be so focused on looking at palms and paying attention to what their palm trees look like, but we actually want you guys to pay attention more to your compost pile or your green waste piles, because that's where they're spending most of their time. And if you see palm damage, that's already 1 month, 3 months old already by the time we can see the damage. So that if you start to see palm damage, you've had beetles for a while already at that point. Versus if you manage your green waste, you can catch them much quicker, hopefully before we get a bunch of adults emerging. So this is just a little chart to show you how often they actually spend time in compost and stuff like that. So for the grubs and the pupa, entire life inside the compost. As for the adults, they'll leave to go feed and then come back to the decaying plant matter to breed, essentially. So you'll also find adults in compost. So we're telling people, pay attention to your palms. Yes, it's important, but also pay attention to your compost piles. So this was the green waste pile at the airport that Molly was talking about. So this is just something, this was what they did for years. This is just how they manage their green waste until we've had CRB. So once we found it, this is flat now. They fumigated this and took everything to be processed at the county green waste. So this is no longer there anymore. So they are changing their management practices now that more people are aware of what's going on and what to do. So we tell people, like, please don't illegally dump your piles over the fence, first of all. Please take it to the county green waste. They're doing hot composting. They were doing that here, especially for fire ants and other stuff. Same thing, it will kill all the grubs. So and if you want to pick up mulch, make sure you get the hot from the hot pile, just like all the same stuff we've been doing for fire ants, essentially. Main thing, don't stockpile your green waste unless you're actively using it. Please take it to the county green waste. So now what you guys can do, what everybody in the public can do, please check your compost piles. Or it may just be dead things on your property. Though the first grubs that were found in Waikoloa was a decaying stump. She had a palm tree cut years and years ago, was finally taking, like, now that the stump was crumbly, easy to remove, she was pulling it out, found the grubs at the bottom. But as much as possible, check your stuff. If there's like some people's like, no, I need my compost, like I garden, whatever. You can keep those in tubs or put it action packers, garbage cans, stuff like that. To protect it from the beetles or beetles from getting in. Or if you get like truckloads delivered, you can put, like how we talked about netting, you can cover it with netting to catch any beetles coming in or out of it. So please don't, so we're trying to avoid people now stockpiling their green waste. So don't just like pick up all the fronds on your property, throw it in the backyard and let it sit there for a long time. That is potentially become a breeding site. And if you use mulch for gardening or whatever, that's fine. Just try not to keep it longer than 4 months. Use it right away. And when you do use it, spread it thinly. I think they recommend 2 inches, but I think we did recently find some teeny tiny ones in 2 inches. So maybe like 1 inch thick. So use it very thinly. So this is pictures from Oahu. So we haven't seen it here yet, but just like how garden stores, they keep their bags of soil outside. And those things tear if you pick them up too fast, honestly. So really easy for the CRB to get in. So what you want to look for is you can kind of see this is what the adult did. So because they're really prickly pokey if you look at their legs. So they essentially poked a bunch of little holes to rip it open and they laid their eggs inside the bag. So this does look different from a tear, right? So you want to look for lots of little poked holes. That's potentially CRB. But like I said, haven't seen this happen yet on the Big Island, but just be aware, because there was an incident on Oahu where their bags are all beat up and ugly. So they put them on discount for like 50% off, and they all sold, and they all had CRB in it. So best practices for your mulch, like I said, put it in containers. If you have a small amount, they shouldn't be able to get in, but if you do, now your container has a giant hole in it, and that's pretty telling that something got in. You can put netting. We're still, some of our crew is getting intense training on how to do netting, but the gist of it is you want loose, what they call fluffy layers of netting. So don't pull it taut. We want the beetles to get tangled in it. Some people on Oahu leave the tangled dead bodies in the net because they have some kind of aggregation pheromone that they just naturally give off. So they're like, oh, there's more beetles here. And then they keep coming in more and more, keep getting stuck. So I believe when we're on Oahu, the guy who was doing this netting, he would just go and pop their heads off and like leave the body there to make sure they were dead and they wouldn't escape. So that's something that you could do also to make your net trap more effective. Avoid stockpiling, so don't keep piles and piles of mulch that you're not going to use within 4 months. The reason we say 4 months is just that's not enough time for an egg to be laid and the adult to come up. So as you're using it, the pile's getting smaller and smaller, you'll come across the grubs. That's the idea is with the 4 months. And of course, like I said, spread it thinly. And when we do spread it thinly, there's more chances something will come along and eat it. Chickens, pigs, mongoose, whatever. Also, when we do the dog survey, that is another issue that we have. It's if the pile is like 6 feet high and the beetles are in the center on the bottom, it's really hard for the dog to smell it. So we do aerate piles before he goes in. But if you have the piles thinly and for Manu comes by, he would be able to smell it much easier than if you had a giant pile and it was hiding in the center. So of course, please report beetles and larvae that you find. So here's all our contact info. Please get a picture or a video. Don't describe the grub to me over the phone. Something to keep in mind for the video, CRB and the most common lookalike Oriental flower beetle move very differently. So if you take like a few second video of how this thing is crawling, we can probably tell you what it is, or whether or at least it's yes or no CRB. Another thing is get a picture of the underside. The Oriental flower beetle has a raster line on the bottom, so quite telling, really easy to identify once we can clearly see the raster line on it. And if not, I'll just tell you, hey, I need better pictures. So these are some of the lookalike species. There is a dung beetle that has a tiny horn. But this thing, you can see it's the size of this guy's thumbnail, much, much smaller than CRB. And once the CRB pupates and the adult beetle comes out, they are that size forever. They don't start teeny tiny and grow into a larger beetle. Oriental flower beetle, probably the most common. These things are all over the place and there's hundreds and thousands of them. And their grub is very, very similar to Coconut Rhinoceros Beetle. So this kind of gross squirmy video is Oriental flower beetle. If you pick one and watch it long enough in this video, you can see these guys flip over on their back and tend to crawl upside down, kind of like upside down inchworm. CRB will stay on their side and kind of like do little donuts, and they're not very fast. So this is the main comparison. Once we've seen enough grubs or we can figure it out, but side by side, as someone who has not looked at grubs for hours at this point, it's really hard to tell the difference. Something to keep in mind, and because if you're finding like a first or second instar, they're not going to be 2 inches big. They're going to be the same size as the Oriental flower beetle. So just because you find a little grub doesn't mean it's not a CRB. But CRB are very fat. They can't tuck their heads into their sides, so that's why we have this like this little C. We call it a C shape. It can't fold any farther than that. Versus the Oriental flower beetle, it can make like an E shape, so it'll tuck its head in even more. But the easiest thing here is I tell people, if your grub has a butt crack, it's an Oriental flower beetle. That's the easiest way to tell the difference. CRB, you can see, does not have a raster line. So here's some difference in the moving. So you can see Oriental flower beetle flips over on its back and it's got someplace to go. This thing's moving pretty fast. Unclear why it's upside down in the air with the legs in the air, but that's just how they do it. And you can see CRB just stay on their side and kind of do little donuts and he's not going anywhere. And I'm just gonna let the video play because it's a good example and kind of gross to look at. Okay, so find any weird grub, please report it. There's also a ton of scarab beetles and all their grubs look like this. So just because it may not be a CRB or an oriental flower beetle, it could be another type of scarab beetle and probably won't be able to figure out what it is besides doing a DNA test. So we'll probably all we can tell you is yes or no CRB. And please don't squish it right away because I may need a clearer picture. I may ask you for a video or something. Or if it is a CRB, I'm like, we need to come get that. So please don't squish them right away. They do compose really fast after they die. So once you catch them, throw them in the freezer. And then once you get the clear from us, then you can throw it away. Okay, and we are still accepting palm damage reports. I know it's really hard to take a picture of a like 50-foot palm tree, but do your best. So the main thing we're going to be looking for is the V cuts, the scalloped edges, and any bore holes. Most of the damage we see are still rats and tremors, but we want to get them just in case. We are still giving away traps. Maybe not at this exact moment because we're trying to get more parts in. But if you're interested in hosting a trap, especially if you're in areas that we did, like if you saw on our map that like, oh, there's not too many traps in my area, we would definitely want you to host one. Really easy. We put it up with zip ties, give you a lure with a QR code on it. You just go up to your trap once a month, look into the bucket. If there's anything in there, you can just scan the QR code, let us know. And then in 3 months, just let us know when you need a new lure. So really easy to do. And we do have a live map on our website, so you can bring that up and see where all the detections and the traps are. And of course, let everybody know. Because it's, as far as we know, it's not on the east side. We haven't had anybody show me a picture of a grub or bring it into us. I've heard a few just people like, oh, I see that all the time, but no confirmation. So the more people we have on the lookout, then faster we can respond to it. If anybody finds anything. Okay, so here is all of our contact information. I'll tell people, please take a picture of these things. Please don't call and describe the grubs and the beetles. But yeah, that's pretty much it on CRB. You guys have any questions? Any online questions?
What's the distance between each of those pilot traps?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Distance.
There's been multiple reports or papers done on how far to space the trap, but even when we asked the company we ordered from, they're not sure.
Right.
So we are trying to space them out. So say if you live like in that area in Kona where there's tons and tons of traps already, you putting up a trap is probably not beneficial. We know they're already there, and if we have too many lures in one place, it can pretty much screw up the beetles. They don't know, they're confused with all the different pheromones in the air. So we want to put more traps where we don't have many so far.
Are there traps in Hilo right now?
There are, yeah. Actually, I think there's one on site somewhere. I think Laura was checking for me. She probably needs a new lure. But we do have some in Hilo, and we are checking the airports in the harbor. Also, we've had traps there forever.
Are the traps or the nets?
The panel traps.
Which is more effective?
The netting or the
Traps.
So the panel traps, those black ones, are only for detection. So their catch rate is not that good, like 10-15%. But the netting with the compost or the compost inside of it has a much higher catch rate. I don't know the actual percentage of the amounts, but we do know that decaying plants like the logs and compost and all that stuff are more attractive than just the lure.
Are these nets available in Hilo?
You might be, I think you have to order it online. You can't, nobody's carrying.
Online, what do they call it?
There are multiple names for it, but it's the monofilament netting is the type it is. There's different brands, of course. But you want the 1/2 inch eye.
1/2 inch.
I'll get a link and I'll send it to your secretary. How's that sound? Okay. Is the Bifen effective against the pupal stage if you're treating mulch, or is it only gonna be,
I believe so.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's only for homeowners. Like if you have a nursery or something,
You're-
pesticide laws, you gotta do something else. Yeah.
If you're gonna spray a mulch pile, what's the concentration of bifenthrin?
We were using the granulars. Rather than spray, we were putting the granulars and mixing the pile.
Or the granules?
Mhm. And then the label should say how much for the space, how much granules per space.
And is any other chemicals being used for drenching or granular for mulch, or is that it? Okay.
So there was like fumigation and all that stuff for the big ones that's what the ag guys had to do. But then now you have to, like, you can't do that by yourself. You have to hire somebody.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're just telling people netting.
Has the rate been determined,
The what?
ounces per cubic yard or whatever?
I can ask what they were applying, but I think he just went off the label. Because it was HDOA who was applying some of it. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he just, whatever the label said is what he put on it.
So for folks in Hilo though, what's your recommendations for next steps for if you're a homeowner or if you're an industry member, nurseryman?
Right now, because we haven't had any detections in Hilo, we're still keeping an eye out for it. So you don't need to do any kind of treating, no pesticides. If you want to be really proactive, you could put netting on your palms or on your compost, but that's as far as I would go. I wouldn't start with pesticides yet on the east side. Yeah, because if there's nothing, because for a lot of these pesticides, it has to either come into contact with the beetle or the beetle has to eat the palm for it to affect it anyway. So if you're treating your palm and there's nothing going on, you're just wasting money at this point. Once we start if we get detections on the east side, then that's a different story.
I guess it would be if somebody wants to put up netting on their green waste, it won't hurt, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it gets here and somehow it's not detected right away, at
Then you
least.
still catch it in your netting.
Yeah. George online asked about last month. He had asked about the sex distribution in the hatchings. Did we get an answer on whether it was 50% male, 50% female? And Molly answered it online already that it's about 50% with slightly higher for females, but it's not a statistically significant amount.
So I think even by going off of our catches, just like what we've been catching in the traps, it's pretty even.
Is anyone in Hawaii applying tech and netting to palms? In the backyard, the coconut palms, do the thing with the bows of netting, whatever, in the
Not here, I believe.
Oahu, are they doing that?
I am not 100% sure. I want to say yes, or as the homeowner, if you have a guy that regularly comes to trim your trees, whatever, you might as well just hand him the netting and be like, hey, tie this up there.
I've seen some of the Oahu talks and some people are using.
Some people are using it.
Yeah, and they're using sand also, and sand that's infused with I think it's like rosemary or basil essential oils, sand. Yeah, so they're stuffing sand in there with irritants to prevent beetles from entering the crown, and they're also using netting. But right, if it's tall trees, then that's a real difficulty.
Yeah, you need a trimmer to do it. The weird thing about the sand is once it's dry or the fronds come out, all the sand falls out. And so it's something you gotta do constantly.
Not super effective.
And if your tree is tall, you gotta have somebody climb up there all the time.
That's too expensive.
Yeah, so it's like
the labor.
we tell people just use the netting versus instead of every week you go reapply sand, you just do like once a month or whatever to fix the netting.
What do you know about inter-island shipment of palm trees?
I think palms and like compost, bags of soil, anything they consider breeding material is getting inspected. It has to get treated.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
Yes.
But is it allowed As far as you know,
As long as it's inspected, yes, it's allowed.
because I had 30 coconuts ordered from Maui
Mhm.
last month.
Coming off of Oahu. You probably don't need to get it inspected coming from Maui, they'll probably just let it go. Anything coming off of Oahu needs to get treated and inspected, because Oahu is where the highest population is.
No, I'm not talking about Oahu, I'm talking about here.
Coming off of here,
So we got word from the DOA, from Jonathan Ho's office, that we couldn't ship coconuts out of Kauai High to Kahului. Then I got another order for 28 coconuts for Oahu. And I just got word, was it yesterday or this morning, from the DOA. At first they said they don't know.
yeah,
So I gotta wait. That's always the answer. I don't know. You gotta wait. But they answered me and said we could ship coconuts out of Kona to Honolulu. Well, Honolulu, what's the problem? They got so much
exactly,
CRB anyway.
yeah, so that's the only
And all
reason
we
I
gotta
can
do
see-
is treat it.
Yeah,
I guess it's gonna be by Frederick. You know, of course, we gotta do the raw treatment and the
I'm not too
little
sure.
variants and a kohi and all that. Now it's 4 different treatments we gotta go through.
Mhm. I'm not too sure, I didn't know they added that to stuff coming off the Big Island, I only knew it existing on stuff from Oahu, so that's news to me.
What's that?
I didn't know that they were essentially stopping stuff moving from the Big Island, I thought it was only Oahu, so I didn't know that.
Now they said it's okay to ship to Oahu.
Only to Oahu, because it's already.
Yeah, it's already
But
unloaded.
Maui is not, that's why they stopped you on Maui, because Maui doesn't have CRB.
I thought you just said that,
Had one detection and they got rid of it, and they haven't seen any more since, so.
well, only, so now I don't know about Maui.
Yeah,
Maybe we gotta cancel a shipment.
yeah, you would have to talk to them, because I'm not sure.
It's hard to talk to them. They don't answer the phone. Yeah. It's very, very difficult,
Mhm.
frustrating.
Yeah, and then they give you different answers depending if someone on the Big Island versus someone on Oahu will answer too. Okay, but do we have any more questions online or?
Just a comment, Gabrielle had said there's some homeowners that have actively asked trimmers to put netting on palm crowns in Kona and Waikoloa.
Perfect, that's awesome.
But she is saying that she doesn't know if it's the correct netting. It might be bird netting
Yeah.
that they're using. Yeah, so.
It's hard to get, so better than nothing at this point.
You know, I was in Waimanalo a couple of weeks ago. And it's devastating.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I never saw so many CRP in my life, thousands of,
yeah.
thousands. I saw these nettings. Oh, well, almost every nursery has nettings now,
They have to,
and but I don't think it's working.
there's only so much they can do.
The netting was maybe long, and about like 5 feet high, or something like
They put
that.
it like between two posts.
And they had those black lights
Mhm.
hanging on it,
Oh, to attract them.
and there were thousands of beetles stuck in there.
Mhm.
So I said, what about the beetle that can fly over or crawl underneath?
I supposedly the light disorients them. So they, rather than just flying over, the light will kind of make them all confused, and that's how they get trapped in the
But-
net.
All of the palms in that
Yeah.
nursery.
Yeah.
Wiped out,
Mhm.
all drooping down. It was sad. Then I went to about 6 different nurseries, all the same,
Mhm.
just wiped out. I have about maybe a couple of 100 coconuts. I can just imagine our place. You see our
Without, yeah, no, it's no good.
be wiped out.
Jay, do you know on Guam, is it now existing, especially like in the northern limestone forests? Just different populations in the wild, because everything you've talked about is people's gardens and backyards. But I'm wondering when it gets to tuna, is it just gonna establish in the wild, in the organic soils and the lava rock?
Probably.
So that's
Yeah.
not gonna be managed.
No.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you wouldn't even try to manage, what are you gonna do?
Most likely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because we're luckily in Kona, they're surrounded by lava fields and fountains.
Dry lava fields with
Yeah.
no fresh organic, but once you come over this side,
Yeah.
and for the
Well,
most
or
part,
even South Kona,
Yeah.
if they go south, is south enough, they're gonna hit something similar, so that's why
So,
they're still they're still working on they're still calling it eradication, the state is, but we're prepping for management phases already.
as my agent, I'm a nurseryman, I do it for a living. What's your recommendation?
I would definitely keep up with the updates and make sure you're aware of where it's at. Being over in Panaʻo, right? So keep up with BIISC and make sure that you're familiar with CRB movement across the island. If it was me, I would probably try to manage my green waste as best as possible.
We don't have any.
Okay, that's good. Talk to your neighbors about
We-
managing.
We burn it.
Talk to your neighbors about managing their green waste. But like we said, if it's in Panaʻo, most likely it's going to be living in forests also because there's enough green waste there. So if I was a nurseryman, I would start prepping some sort of management. I would probably, I don't want to say this, but I would probably get ArborJet and start
What's that?
ArborJet and start thinking about
What's the
tree
cost
injection. I think they're like 3,500 last time I looked at the price, but that was like a year and
for
a
the whole unit?
yeah. But there's different,
$3,500.
we bought one, it was around 3,500.
Now,
But that's not with the chemical either. So
yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
buy a lot of the chemical, and I think that bottle's around like 70 bucks or something like that.
How many trees would $70 do?
It depends on the tree size. If you're nursery crop, they're gonna be pretty small, right? Or, I mean, you could come up, if you don't want to treat consistently, you could probably come up with a system to net your nursery trees.
Too expensive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Treating is gonna be expensive because
But $3,500. Will you arborjet it? How long is the residual?
I wanna say a year. 1 year.
1 year?
they say but the problem is, Raymond, is that if they're at your or close to your nursery, they'll still go feed on the trees and then come in contact with the imidacloprid or whatever product they end up using, die, but there will be some damage to your tree no matter what. So there was,
Even with the arborjet?
yeah, the example I saw was on Oahu where there was a golf course that did everything right. They got rid of all of their green waste. They treated their trees, but beetles were coming in from a neighbor property. And despite them treating their trees, the continuous feeding damage was eventually wearing the trees down. Despite killing the beetles that were hitting them and feeding, they have to feed on the tree to come in contact with the systemic insecticide. So if you really want pristine trees that are going to be a nursery crop item, looking at netting the trees or coming up with some, like converting one of your shade structures into a fully netted system could be the best option. You already have the shade structures up, so you're really just getting the netting, right? And then come up with a design to put the netting over those shade structures and keep any of your risked plant material, so your palms and other stuff under that shade structure, maybe with or without shade cloth, but definitely with the netting.
Wait. What do you mean? Grow the trees under the shade?
At least have them under there. Yeah. So you've got some almost 2-story shade structures, right?
Well, 20 feet.
Yeah, that the palms can fit under because your palms aren't all 20 feet, right?
Well, a 10-foot trunk palm is 20 feet tall.
So you might need to expand it, right? But that's really the only feasible option to ensure that you're not gonna have feeding damage. One of the only options. I'm sure there's gonna be other strategies, but off the top of my head, looking at your nursery, that is an option, right? And I mean, you could leave the net loose so the trees could grow up and slightly push up the netting. So it could be slightly higher than 20 feet. So yeah,
That's Pascal's.
I'll grab it, yeah.
You'd rather.
But we can talk strategy. We can talk other strategy too, to save everybody else the time. Yeah.
From what I understand, UH is starting their research on biocontrol, but years down the road before it's ready.
No. Well, if you guys can stop it in Kona, that'll be great.
We'll try. We're trying.
I think Molly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, Raymond, would you like to host a panel trap at your nursery?
Okay.
It's Molly Murphy.
She was with me.
So if you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll email you or stop by sometime next week if that's okay.
Yeah, we're on Mamaki Street.
That's yours.
Yep.
Apparently she knows who you are and where you're at already, but I can get his info if you need, Molly.
Oh, I know who Raymond is. He's
Okay.
He's a Hilo legend.
Do we need to get the legislators involved to get more funding? No, yeah, I mean,
Yes. Oh, always. Yes.
why aren't we doing it?
They already gave a bunch of money for CRB, thankfully, so because it was getting a little, we were unsure if the CRB response team on Oahu would even exist at some point, but they are putting more money, so they did get funding, and they come over and they help us quite a bit.
The legislators?
Yes.
So there's enough money
We could always use more.
for what?
Because our plan is we want to be able to buy the netting because it's hard, at the moment, kind of hard to come by and give it away. Show people and do training, show people how to net your palms, how to net your compost.
Why don't we do
There you
it?
go. We're working on it.
And legislators won't react?
They will.
Let's
Let 'em know.
let's talk a little bit about the legislation this last year and where the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity is on it. As some of you will know, there was legislation that was put in specifically for controlling CRB that went through both the House and the Senate and ultimately got folded into the biosecurity bill. It's only providing $500,000 one year and $500,000 a second year. That is less than what the original proposal was. And I think that that's insignificant. It's a nice step forward. But last month when I asked the question about the sex distribution of these, I did a quick calculation on what the production of the beetle would be. And one female beetle, the calculation is that one female beetle can produce in 4 years, it can be as a result of one female beetle. There can be the production in 4 years of 4 million other female beetles. And if you multiply that by 2 for the males, you got 8 million beetles from one female in a period of 4 years. Now, the Department of Agriculture has this biological control program, but they took a year to develop a plan. Now they got to go back to the legislature to get the funds to build the facility, and then they've got to get going on doing the research on it, which is another minimum of 2 years. The biological control is way down the line, and I think the legislature needs to know why it is that there are so many beetles. I mean, that 4 year delay period of time, one female is going to result in 8 million other beetles. And that's just one. How many beetles are out there now that are reproducing? This is a devastating number, and they really need to know how bad this is, and they need to put more money into it. And it's only if the people stand up and advocate for it, is it going to happen.
Yes, I agree fully. So yeah, everybody please let your legislators know that this is very serious and they need to take it more seriously.
Which legislators are you folks working with? Who's a representative?
I would have to get back to you because I'm not the one doing it. Somebody else on our team
No.
is in contact.
Well,
Oh,
like us here, you know, we live on the island, we work on this island. And we never heard about this. This is the first time I heard about this thing. You know, and I'm not a teeny weeny nursery.
mhm.
I got 15 employees. You know. And so we should get even our legislators, our senators and representatives from this side also jumping in
Yes.
and help.
I agree.
But you guys are doing a good job in getting us known, informing us.
That's what we're here for. Yeah.
Yeah, but how long has this been going on? And I just heard about it today,
Well, I'm glad you came then.
because we got them to extend our leases another 35 years. That took 2 years. We got them to allow us to drill wells in our property. That took 2 years. You know, but so I know we can get it done, but we gotta know about it.
Mhm. No, yeah, please tell your representative, the legislator, and that you want it done quicker, because from what we've seen, HDAB is very reactive versus proactive. So if we make a lot of noise and we need this
Does
done, we
BIISC
need it
have a
now.
legislative committee?
Not really. We have a steering committee that tells us what projects to work on, but that's about it.
All right, well, we're 10 minutes over, folks, so I'll be in touch with those that have registered for our next brown bag sessions. We don't have them scheduled yet, but I will let you know when we do. All righty, thanks, everybody, and have a good weekend.
No, we don't want this thing